Hello coders, thank you for watching my video. I am NeuroDude64 and I'm here to present to build off of my previous Python instruction video. I gave you an introduction into Python. Today we're going to be teaching you guys about strings. If you watch my previous videos, you will know about the textbook we will be using for my class, or for these lessons really. I'm going to be using Automate the Boring Stuff with Python by Al Sweigart. All right. I read this book cover to cover. I'm going to use it as a reference to teach you guys Python. This is available free online, and I'm going to put a link in the description so you can refer to that if you want to uh, check out this book for yourself. All right. Let's get started. We're going to be learning about strings, the data type strings, Python strings. But before we do that, I'm going to give you a little bit more about myself. Other than I'm NeuroDude64, I'm also the creator of Coder's Journal. I am also the developer of Attack of the Bacilli. So I'm creator of Coder's Journal and Attack of the Bacilli. So let's go back to here. Here's Attack of the Bacilli. If you want to play this online, it's available online. You can download it there free and follow instructions on how to install it and how to play it. And I've gotten some good feedback from it, so I'm happy. I'm working on version 3 of the game, so stay tuned for that. Subscribe if you want to hear more information about that later on in future videos. Subscribe to codersjournal.com so you can see the latest articles I post there as soon as they're posted. You will get an email notification when I post new articles on that video, on that blog. I just posted an article about universal basic income and what I predict how that might impact our future. Anyways, check it out. Let me know what you think. All right, that's enough about me. Now let's teach you guys something about some Python, some actual code. Well, before we get to the coding part, um, I will need to introduce you to a little bit more information, a little bit more stuff. By now, I hope you have seen my previous video, which is the first part of this video series, which is the introductory lesson to Python. There I teach you how to install Python on your computer. I go over how to install it on your computer, going to python.org, and then I also show you how you can run Python on the terminal. Uh, Towards the end of that video, I showed you how you can run Python on the terminal and how you can print out a simple "Hello World" string. At that point, I think I might have introduced that it was a string. Today, we're gonna go over strings a lot more deeply. But again, it's still going to be an introduction. You're going to hear more and more about strings as you progress through these lessons. All right. But yeah, so you should have that groundwork information already. If not, I'll put a link in the description where you can check out the first video if you have not yet watched it. When you're done watching it, you can come back here and start the video from this slide. All right. Next slide. There are we are going to be using other methods to access Python, not just using it the terminal. We're going to be using other methods to access Python. These other methods are the first one. If you don't want to install Python, if you don't have Python installed on your computer even now, or if you don't want to install it at all, you can use Google Colab. Google Collaboratory is what it's called, but it's shortened as Google Colab. And here's a screenshot of Google Colab. This screenshot was taken from when I used Google Colab in this video. Python challenge print hello world the hard way. I think I published that one 2 or 3 days ago. There I used Google Colab to show to do the coding challenge I created for myself. And so you can see Google Colab at work at that point. So you can, and I also introduced a little bit of how you can access Google Colab for yourself. Essentially, search Google Colab and then click on that link and sign in with your Google login information or Gmail login information, whatever. And yeah, you'll be good. You can start programming Python right there and then. So if you don't want to install Python, you can go through this route as well. And the method we're going to be using today the primary method we're going to be using to code is using an IDE, which is an interactive development environment. It's widely used to program Python because you can put in multiple lines of code and you can run it. I love using my IDE. I use Visual Studio Code, which is again, you can access it free. Everything I'm telling you, Google Colab, Python, and Visual Studio Code, including the textbook I'm going to be using. It's all freely available for you. That's the magic of open source, this open source culture of software. All right, so I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code. So let's show you an image of how that looks. Ooh, look at that! It's spun around. All right, so this is VS Code. It's shortened as VS Code. It's essentially I increased the font size for you guys so you can see the font size a little easier on your phones if you're watching this video on your phone or on your computer screen or wherever you're watching it. You can see the font a little bit easier that way. So in this case, what I'm doing here is I'm printing hello world. This is the string I introduced using the terminal. This one's using the IDE. In this case, the code gets printed out over here and the console is down here. You'll see that as I demonstrate how to code really soon. In the coming, give me a few minutes and we'll be working with this a lot more. All right. But before we start working, I got to introduce to you what the heck is a string. So what is a Python string? A Python string is a fundamental data type used to represent a string of characters. In this case, characters can be uh, it can be letters, it can be numbers, it can be at symbols, it can be symbols, it could be anything you can type is a string of characters. All right. So in this case, it's used to represent a string of characters, uh, essentially textual data. Essentially, all this text would be the string data type. The key characteristics it's a sequence of characters. It's immutable. What immutable means is that it can't be changed. Once a string is created, it can't be directly modified. Any operation, anything you do to the string that appears to have changed it, actually replaces that string for a different string. And also in this description, you notice this really weird word. It's called you pronounce it concatenation. Concatenation. What it means is essentially you're putting two things together. We will explore this more during the coding section of this video. Just wait and see. I want to introduce this to you now, so that way, if you want to come back to it later, come back to this slide and you can see, oh yeah, I remember that, and it'll help you remember this stuff. All right, but we will cover concatenation in a little bit, and also um, strings can be created using single quotation, double quotations, or if you want to make multi-line strings, where you like line break, line break, line break, making multi-line strings. Again, we'll explore this more during the coding section of this video. You can use a triple double quotation marks or a triple single quotation marks for multi-line strings. All right, so that's all about strings. Again, we'll go over it more through the coding. And then we have some functions we're going to be working with. These are functions that are commonly used. In this case, we have the print function, which is used to display information to the console, also called the terminal. So if we go back to here, the console in this case is over here. Where it's labeled terminal, this is the console. So in this case, when you print something, it gets displayed down here. All right, let's go back here. So that's the print function. That's what the print function does. It displays stuff into the console, into the terminal. The input function, this input function, or actually, let's use a different. Let's use the laser pointer. All right, this input function. The input function is a built-in function that allows programs to receive data from a user. So from either yourself or somebody else. If you write the code, you give it to someone else, give it to your mom, dad, your best friend, your sister, your brother, whoever you give it to, they can input code and you can essentially make a little program for them. We will be exploring the input function when we get to the coding section as well. And then we will also explore this type function. The type function is a built-in function that determines what data type an object is, or essentially an object meaning a variable. It can determine what what data type a variable is. We'll explore variables more when we get into the coding section. We'll explore more about these functions as well as we get once we get into the coding section, which is coming up in like 2 slides, like a slide. Next slide, we're gonna go into the coding section. But before we do that, I'm gonna show you a little bit of what we will go over during the coding section. So here you can see the use of the print function. You can see the use of the print function right here. You can see the use of the type function right here. And you can see the use of like print function, type function, input function right here. So don't worry if you don't understand what you are seeing right now. We will go over it step by step soon. All right. This is just a little introduction into what you will be taught. All right. We're done with that. Let's get started. Let's open up VS Code. So give me 1 second. I'll be back with you when I open up VS Code. Welcome back, guys. All right. So as you can see, this is where I have it printed hello world. If we run that string, we'll run that code, it'll output down here, hello world. So let's actually make uh, the terminal a little bigger so you can see it better. So let's explore this hello world a little bit. Actually, let's change world for viewer. Let's explore hello viewer a little bit. So each time you run it, you can see it runs it in a different line. So here's hello viewer. All right. So what if we got rid of what if do we need this print function? Let's see what happens when we run this code. When you run this code, you see nothing happened because you didn't tell the computer to output anything. Unless you include the print function, you won't output anything to the terminal. All right. So what do we need these quotation marks? Let's get rid of the quotation marks. Let's explore that. Let's get rid of these quotation marks. Oh, look at that. This has now it's highlighted. It's that hello is not defined. It thinks hello is a variable or something. It doesn't know that it's a string. The way it knows it's a string is these quotation marks. As you can see, I'm using single quotation marks. In this case, we can also use the double quotation marks to and get rid of the single quotation marks. And that should also work. Hello viewer. The output's not, it's hard to read, right? There's no line breaks here. So let's include some line breaks here. There are multiple ways we can add line breaks to this code. We're gonna change this code a little bit, but before we do that, let's leave this code up here, but we're gonna comment it out. When we comment it out, if we run this code now, it won't run anything. Because when you comment something, this is how programmers put in information about the code that they have just written, so that either another programmer can understand what they wrote, or when they come back to this code years later, they understand what they wrote down when they were first programming this code. So comments are hugely beneficial to programmers, but they don't get run. So this is a good way to silence a bit of code when you're troubleshooting. Anyways, so now let's put in some line breaks. So we're going to print. We're going to use the same print function. In this case, we're going to print we're going to do the multi-line string. Remember the multi-line string that we were learning about before? In this case, we're going to use the double quotation marks. It's multi-line, so let's bring it multi-lines. We're going to do it the same way that we did the first one, but in this case, we're going to put an enter here and an enter here, so we'll have line breaks. And then here we're going to put in hello. Actually, instead of typing it, just so we can have the same thing, we're just going to copy paste this hello viewer text. So you know it's exactly the same. Now let's run this code. Look at that. There's a line break over here and there's a line break over here. This is the magic of this multi-line ability of printing stuff to the console. But what if you wanted to print hello viewer multiple times? You could always copy and then paste it. You can always copy paste it and run it that way. It takes a lot more time to type out all that information. There's an easier way to print out hello viewer 5 times. So we're gonna comment out this this block of text, block of code, and we're gonna bring back the hello viewer. Why are we doing this? We're gonna put in some line breaks here, and we're gonna print it 5 times using a different method. So in this case, what you can do, you don't even need that. What you can do is that by typing in 2 characters, you can introduce a line break into this one line of code. So in this case, the first character is a backslash. So front slash is this guy. We're not going to use the front slash. We're going to be using a backslash. When we use a backslash, that's the first character, and then the second character is n. The n I think stands for new line. So it has to be backslash n, so we can copy paste this, paste it over here. So now, if we print hello viewer, you will see there's a line before it and a line and an empty line after it. It's got line break before it and after it. That's what we have typed in over here. Good stuff. All right. In addition to that, let's type it in 5 times. To type it in 5 times, we don't have to include anything else. We don't have to add another line, add multi-line text or anything like that. What we can do is we can multiply this by 5. We're going to be multiplying the words, the string, by 5. So let's run that code. Boom. And it runs it. So actually, let's get rid of this. No, let's get rid of this guy. That line break and see if that looks a little cleaner. There we go. All right. So that's essentially what you can do with the print function. You can do some pretty cool stuff with the print function. The print function is highly beneficial when you are troubleshooting your code, when you're trying to figure out what's going on, and whether a function's working the way you want it to, whether you are outputting the right thing. You will use a print function to figure out what's going on there. Now we're going to be learning about variables. So let's put in a comment here. Variables. Let's say Python variables. Python variables. All right. So variables. What are variables? Variables in if you've taken algebra or calculus or any of that type of mathematics, you know that variables are a symbol like x or y or whatever that can take on any number. So like x plus 5 equals 10. X can be any number. In this case, the x is going to be 5. Is 5 plus 5 equals 10. But the x is a stand-in for any number. In the same way, Python variables are stand-ins for something else. They're like containers that hold something else. So I'll show you. I'll explain this with an example. Let's create the example. Let's create the variable apple. We're gonna create the variable apple. So to initialize a variable, you just need to type in the name of the variable and then put an equal sign. Make it equal to something else. Making it equal to something else means that you're gonna be putting this other thing inside the container that's labeled apple. All right. So in this case, we're gonna put in the string banana. BANANAS, but no, without an S. Actually, let's put in some bananas. Let's put in some bananas into apple. All right. So now, before we were using quotation marks when we used the print function. Let's do print. We were using quotation marks. That's if we were going to output a string. In this case, we're not going to be outputting a string. Well, we will be outputting a string, but we're not going to be printing out a string. What we're going to be printing out is the variable apple. If we put apple in in quotation marks, it's just gonna print apple. Let's actually comment out this function here. All right, let's do that. Run it again. There's apple. So it prints out apple. That's not what we want. So instead of doing that, apple without quotation marks. Now it prints out. What does it print out? It prints out bananas. Prints out bananas. So that's what we wanted. When you're printing out a variable, don't include any quotation marks, and it'll print out that variable. In this case, that variable is apple, and it holds bananas. So the container labeled apple holds bananas. All right, but Python is fantastic. This is one of the huge strong suits of Python in that you can put in multiple different things into the same container. So the same container that's labeled apple, the same variable that's labeled apple. Let's use the same variable apple. We're gonna instead put in pear. We're gonna put in a pear, and then I'm just gonna copy paste this guy over here so you can see it's the same function, same everything. In this case, it prints a pear. First, it prints bananas because we didn't comment that out. Next, it prints pear. So it's the same variable, but it prints out the last what it was last holding. All right. So if you're using C++ or Java or C Sharp, these are other programming languages. These are other popular programming languages that are used especially in game development or C. If you're using any of those programming languages, you have to initialize a variable as containing that particular data type. In this case, we would have to initialize it containing strings because that's what we were using it for. With Python, it figures out what's inside the container. You don't have to initialize it yourself. The variable you don't have to initialize it yourself. So you can put a different data type. In this case, the data type we're going to be using is a integer. So we're going to put in this data type, an integer, and then we're going to print that. The same variable apple contains bananas, it contains a pear, and it contains the number 4. The same variable, which is a huge strong suit for Python. It makes it so much easier to program stuff, and it makes it so readable. So you can see what was this variable last used as. That's what it's going to contain. Because Python reads left to right and top to bottom. So the last one in the list, that's what the variable is going to have in it. So in this case, what was happening is initially apple, the variable apple had bananas inside it. Then we replaced bananas for pears. Then we replaced pears for the number 4. And now we're gonna use apple and we're gonna replace it with a different data type. Now this data type, it looks similar to the previous data type of an integer, except this data type here is when you include a decimal point, automatically even, we'll just get rid of the 0. We'll just put in a decimal point like that. It still prints out 4.0 because in this case, this 4.4 point, because of the decimal, it's automatically known as a float. And you'll learn more about integers and floats in the next video I will be posting. In this video, we're going to mostly focus on strings, but I just introduced integers and floats to you in preparation for the next video. But yeah, so I'll prove to you that it's a float using another function that you saw in the PowerPoint. In this case, the function is called type. And we're going to say apple. So we're going to try and figure out what the data type is inside the variable apple. However, in order to output anything to the console, we have to put it in a print function. So here we go. We have print type apple. Print the data type of apple. And then we're gonna print the apple. Alright, so let's see. Let's try that. Let's put that here. We're gonna put that here. Let's put that actually underneath pear as well, and we'll put that underneath bananas. And let's run that. So bananas is a string. which is what I was telling you guys. Banana is a string. Pair, it's a string. Number 4 is an integer. The int stands for integer. And then this last one, 4.0, that's called a float. That's a floating point number. It's a float. And so that is a different data type. We'll learn more about that in the next video. All right. Now I'm going to introduce another function to you. We've introduced print and type functions. Last function I said I was going to introduce was the input function. So what the heck is this input function? Let's see. Let's say input. Let's say print input. Let's just a print. We're going to output the input to the console and see what the heck happens here. All right, here it's not ending the code. In this case, it's trying to take information from us. So I'm going to type in IDK. In that case, it doesn't do anything. This doesn't do anything. In order to do something with it, we need to put something inside the input function. In this case, let's say, oh, what is your name? And we'll try that. So let's silence all this stuff. We're going to comment it all out. We don't care about that stuff anymore. And now let's run this code and see what happens. What is your name? All right, actually, before we do that, I want to clear the terminal. So this is a perfect opportunity to show you something else that's really useful with Python. If you ran a code and you want to stop it in the middle of it running, in this case, the code is running. It's stopping waiting for input from us, and I don't want to give it any input. What do I do? You can't really just exit out. You don't need to do any of that. All you need to do is press two things. Do you know how to copy paste using the keyboard? That's how you are going to stop this. You're going to press Control C. When you press Control C, that's called a keyboard interrupt. And using the keyboard interrupt, you can interrupt the code in the middle. So if the code is running too long or you want to change what you told it to do, press Control C to interrupt any Python code. It doesn't matter what it is, it'll interrupt it. It'll stop it. Now that I've interrupted it, let's clear the terminal. Now, starting from scratch, we're going to start from a clean terminal. What is your name? All right, I'm going to put in NeuroDude64. NeuroDude64. Fantastic. All right. But that doesn't seem that helpful. How can we use this functionality? For that, we're going to need to introduce variables again. All right. So let's use this. We're going to remove this for right now. We're going to put that up here, and we're going to make it equal to a variable. In this case, we'll make it equal to a variable called name. I'll just have it in caps because that'll differentiate it as the variable that contains what the individual's name is. Also, we're going to put a space here because I noticed that right after the question mark, it asks for the name immediately. In this case, I want to put a space. It'll have a space before the user will input something. In this case, the user is me. All right, and then we're going to print. Let's print name first, and then we'll change stuff up. I'm going to add some more functionality to this. But first, we're going to just print out the name. After we'll input the name, and then we'll just print out the name. Or let's say your name is like that. Okay, comma. All right, let's try that. So in this case, we're going to input our name, and then it'll say your name is whatever the name that was inputted. All right, let's run it. What is your name? NeuroDude64. Your name is NeuroDude64. That's exactly right. We just made a little program. What? Yeah, we just made a little program. All right, let's see. Let's add to this. Your name is a name. There's type name. So in this case, what I'm going to be printing next is the data type of your name is whatever that data type is. All right. So let's try that. Actually, let's clear this. Let's try that. What is your name? Let's just say it's Bob. Your name is Bob. The data type of your name is class string. Fantastic. That's fantastic. Great. All right. So now let's do something else with it. All right. How about we ask something else? How about we ask uh, how old are you? So in this case, we're going to print how old are you. We're going to do something with this information. So we're going to say, we're going to then output. Actually, here I have typed in something new, a new question for the user. In this case, I'm asking for its age. For the user's age, I'm going to put it in a variable that's called age. I'm going to ask how old are you? I'm going to ask it because of the input function. I'm going to ask how old are you? And then it's going to output you are however old, years old. All right. Let's run that first. So first it's going to output it's going to ask for the name, then it's going to ask for the age. All right, let's try that. First the name, let's Bob. All right, let's go Angelica. The data type of your name is a string. Your name is Angelica is a string. How old are you? I'm going to say 16. You are 16 years old. Fantastic. You see how everything is making sense? First, the print function and how the input function works. And now, and we all have also used the type function. But let's do something more fun with this. Now we have a user's age. All right. So now let's do some math using the user's age. All right. We're gonna say number of days is equal to, so the number of days that that person is old. We'll figure that out using some math. That will be age, whatever that number is. In this case, the age is 16 years old. So we're going to multiply that by 365, which is the number of days in a year. So 16 by the number of days in a year, it will give you how many days old they are. So then we're going to print you are num days old. All right, that should work. And let's try it out. So number of days, we'll have the age, which is in this case 16, times 365 should give you how many days old they are. And then we're gonna print that to the console. So let's try that again. Your name is, let's go with Steve. How old are you? 16. Oh no! What happened here? I forgot something. I mean, I knew what was going on here. I wanted to see if you caught it. If you caught it, great. Leave it in the comments. I got this. I knew exactly what was wrong. Here's what the problem was. The 16 that it prints out, if you remember from the PowerPoint, let's actually pull up the PowerPoint right now. Here we go. This input function right here. Let's actually, we're gonna use a pen, or we're gonna circle, we're gonna underline the important part. The important part is right here. The input function then captures the entered text as a string and outputs it into the terminal console. Let's go back to where we were. Now that we're back, it captures it as a string. So in this case, right, even though it's typing out the number 16, it thinks it's a string. So we have to make it an integer. So let's make it an integer. This is another thing you can do with Python, is you can change the data type of a variable. In this case, we're going to change it into an int. We're going to change it into an integer. Let's see if this works now. Let's run it again. Let's go with Luis. 16. Everyone's 16 right now. All right, you are 5,840 days old. It worked. This is what we wanted to see. So now, what it did is the string 16, it converted it into an integer 16, and then it multiplied the integer by 365, and now put that as the number of days. So let's actually do one more thing. We're gonna do one more. We're gonna say, in this case, we're gonna say funny. We're gonna introduce a new variable funny. We're gonna make that an input, and we're gonna ask, give me a funny word. And then and I spelled it differently, so let's actually put in a 0 here. Give me a funny word. All right, and then we're gonna say what we're gonna do before we print anything out. We're gonna manipulate this word. So we're gonna say manipulated funny. Manipulated funny. Let's say many funny equals funny Uh, what are we gonna do here? Let's multiply it. No, we're gonna add it. So here we're gonna get into concatenation. We're gonna add it to the previous variable of name. So here, many funny is gonna be a concatenation. So here's the concatenation I told you guys about. So what do you think is gonna happen? If you don't know, give me a sec and I'll run it and you can see what happens. All right. So then we are going to print many funny. No. All right. So then we're gonna run this. Let's try it. All right. What name are we gonna come up with now? We came up with Steve. Let's go with Bill. Billiam. 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 How old are you? 16. Give me a funny word. What's a good funny word? Bubbles. I like bubbles. Bubbles. And let's see what it does. Bubbles billion. You see that? So concatenation, essentially what it does is it puts two words together. I'm gonna explore that a little bit more. Then we'll be done with this first Python lesson. All right. 1 equals CU. 2 equals later. And 3 equals alligator. I don't know if that's how you spell it, but doesn't matter. All right. So here we're gonna use concatenation here. So we're gonna say 1 plus 2 plus 3. If you want to mess with your parents, you can say 1 plus 2 plus 3 equals. See you later, alligator. All right. Enjoy. That's concatenation, where you put all the words together. We merge them together. All of these things you can do with Python are super helpful depending on what you're trying to do. Before we end this video, I have a challenge for you guys. You saw everything I was doing here, using the print function, using the input function, using the type function, and using and changing a string into an integer. My challenge to you is you need to play around with this. Play around with everything I taught you for yourself. Play around with everything I taught you on your own computer. Create something similar to what I did. What is your name? Use the input function. Create a program that you can give to your brother, your sister, your father, mother. Give it to your cousin, and yeah, have fun with it. Learn it. Make mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna need to troubleshoot the same way I had to troubleshoot when I came up with 365 16s. That's how you're gonna come up with situations where if you've never done it before, where you're trying to print one and it just prints one instead of printing the variable one. So these are situations you will only be able to figure out if you do it yourself. So get out there and start coding, guys. All right, I'll see you later. Keep coding, guys. All right, I'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye.